Imagine being 84 years old. You've lived a full life. You raised children who love you. You watched your daughter become one of the most recognized faces on American television. You've laughed, grieved, celebrated, survived. And on a cold February night, in the home you felt safest in, you vanish. No warning, no struggle loud enough for anyone to hear, no goodbye. Nancy Guthrie, mother, grandmother, the woman who raised Savannah Guthrie of the Today Show, disappeared from her Tucson, Arizona home on February 1st. And what has unfolded since that night is one of the most chilling, most complex missing persons cases this country has seen in years. But today, something shifted. The FBI just revealed their strongest lead in this entire investigation. It's not DNA scraped from a windowsill. It's not a fingerprint pulled from a doorframe. It's not a witness who finally decided to talk. It's a Bitcoin wallet. And what's living inside that wallet, what has been quietly, permanently recording itself since the moment this crime began, could be the single thread that pulls this entire thing apart. Stay with me, because this story goes deeper than you think. Before Nancy disappeared. To understand what happened on February 1st, you have to understand who Nancy Guthrie was in the weeks leading up to it. She was 84 years old. She was in declining health. She lived in a modest home in Tucson with her daughter Annie and Annie's husband, who served as her daily caregivers. She wasn't a woman who traveled in high-profile circles or made public appearances regularly, except for the occasional visit to her famous daughter's world. She was, by every account, a quiet woman, a private woman, a woman who loved her family fiercely and expected nothing more than to spend her final years surrounded by the people she'd spent her whole life building. That makes what happened to her so much more devastating, because someone chose her, deliberately, specifically, with planning and patience and cold, calculated intention. This was not random. The ransom note nobody expected. A few days after Nancy disappeared, her family received a message. Not a phone call in the middle of the night, not a letter slipped under a door, not a voice distorted by a machine saying, "We have your mother." It was a Bitcoin address, and a number that must have felt like a punch to the chest. $6 million. Pay by Monday at 5 p.m., or you will never see your mother again. $6 million sent to Savannah Guthrie and her siblings, with a countdown. Think about what it must feel like to receive that message. You're a daughter. Your mother is gone. You don't know if she's cold, if she's hurt, if she's frightened. You don't know if she's alive. And someone, somewhere, is turning her life into a transaction. Monday came. The deadline passed. The family didn't pay. And then, something no one anticipated. A second note appeared. But this one wasn't sent to the family. It was sent directly to TMZ. And the demand was completely different. Not $6 million, not even close. 1 Bitcoin, approximately $70,000. Not ransom money, not release her money. This was information money. Someone was offering to sell the kidnapper's name. Read that again, slowly. There's a person, somewhere in this story, who knows who took Nancy Guthrie, who watched this crime unfold, learned who was behind it, and then decided the most valuable thing they could do with that knowledge was profit from it. That single detail tells you everything about the world Nancy was pulled into, a world where even her disappearance became a commodity. The mistake that changes everything. Here's where the story turns, because while the family was processing the unthinkable, while the media was speculating, while the world was watching, the FBI was doing something else entirely. They were following the money. And the person who created that Bitcoin wallet made a catastrophic error of judgment. They believed, like so many people still believe, that cryptocurrency is anonymous, invisible, a digital ghost that leaves no trace. They were wrong. Ari Redbord is the global head of policy at TRM Labs, one of the most powerful blockchain intelligence companies on the planet. These are the people governments call when they need to track dirty money through the digital world. And he said something on Nancy Grace's show that should terrify whoever is behind this case. Every transaction occurs on a public blockchain, particularly Bitcoin. Every transaction is traceable, trackable, and immutable. There is no erasing it. No erasing it. Let that land for a moment. Every single time that wallet moved, every cent, every fraction of a Bitcoin, every digital handshake between addresses, it was written into a permanent public record, a ledger that exists forever, that the FBI doesn't need a warrant to read, that cannot be hacked, altered, or deleted. It's not just that the transactions are visible, it's that the tools now exist to map entire financial networks built on cryptocurrency. TRM Labs and companies like it cross-reference wallet addresses against global databases of known criminals, ransomware operators, human traffickers, sanctioned individuals, terrorist financing networks. If the person behind that wallet ever, even once, even years ago, bought or sold Bitcoin through an exchange that required identification, the FBI may already have a name. They may already be building the case right now. And here's the moment that made investigators' pulses quicken. On February 11th, just 10 days after Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home, new activity was detected in that wallet. Someone moved funds. Maybe they needed the money. Maybe they got nervous and tried to cash out. Maybe they thought enough time had passed. Maybe they simply didn't understand that the FBI wasn't watching through a keyhole. They were watching through a floodlight. Every movement recorded, every transfer permanent, every digital fingerprint preserved forever in the blockchain. The trail is there, the FBI is on it, and the person who thought they were invisible is leaving footprints with every single step. Was it the family? Here's the real answer. I need to address this because since the night Nancy disappeared, this question has never stopped circulating. Was it the family? I understand why people ask. It's human nature. When someone vanishes, we look closest to home first. And in this case, that means looking at Annie, the daughter who lived with Nancy, at Savannah, the famous one, the one with money and visibility, at the son-in-law, at all of them. But I'm not going to give you a Reddit theory. I'm going to give you something far more valuable. Jennifer Coffin Daffer spent years as an FBI special agent working kidnappings and missing persons cases. She has sat across from guilty people and watched them perform grief. She has sat across from innocent people and watched them shatter under it. She knows, at a professional, trained, experienced level, what each one looks like. And she gave 10 reasons why she believes the Guthrie family had absolutely nothing to do with what happened to Nancy. 1. Statistically, matricide accounts for less than 1% of all homicides. Family-orchestrated abductions are even rarer. This type of crime almost never originates from within the home. 2. The grief is authentic. Coffin Daffer didn't just observe the family, she analyzed them, their emotional responses, their behavior, their body language. She concluded the pain is real. These are not people performing loss, these are people living it. 3. If someone inside that family wanted to harm Nancy, a frail 84-year-old woman in declining health, they didn't need to engineer an elaborate kidnapping with ransom notes and cryptocurrency. They had access to her every single day. They simply could have waited. 4. The financial motive is almost laughably weak for a crime this complex. Nancy's home is worth roughly $1 million. Split 3 ways, that's about $300,000 each. No one designs a criminal operation this sophisticated, this dangerous for $300,000. 5. The execution is far too elaborate for someone on the inside. Disabled cameras, killed Wi-Fi, a masked intruder, a Bitcoin ransom, multiple reconnaissance visits. A family member doesn't build this machinery. They don't need to. 6. Annie and her husband were Nancy's full-time caregivers. They had keys, access, and daily presence in that home. You don't break into a house you already live in. 7. Savannah Guthrie is one of the highest-paid anchors in American television. She didn't need her mother's money. More than that, Nancy was a beloved figure in her public life. She was an asset. She was family. She was home. 8. The timing of the disappearance directly contradicts a family plot. Savannah was in the middle of Olympic coverage, arguably the most visible, most documented stretch of her professional year. Cameras everywhere, eyes everywhere. If she were planning something, she would have vanished into the background, not stood under the brightest lights of her career. 9. Law enforcement has officially and formally cleared the family. The FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office have both confirmed no family member is a person of interest. And 10. This is the detail that silences every theory about the family. Security cameras captured 3 separate visits to Nancy's home in January, before she disappeared. Someone came 3 times to study that property, to learn it, to map it. Someone who grew up visiting that house doesn't need to scout it. That is the behavior of an outsider, a patient, methodical, dangerous outsider who was preparing for something. So who did this? This is the question that stays with me long after I close my laptop. Because whoever did this didn't choose Nancy by accident. The evidence makes that undeniably clear. This person, or these people, knew that house. They knew the camera positions. They knew how to disable the Wi-Fi router that powered them. They knew which night Nancy would be alone and vulnerable. They knew the layout of that home well enough to move through it in darkness without triggering a single alarm. This was intimate knowledge, dangerous knowledge, the kind you don't find on Google. About 2 weeks before Nancy disappeared, a neighbor named Aldine Meister noticed something that unsettled her. A man moving through the neighborhood who simply didn't belong. He wasn't jogging, he wasn't walking a dog, he had no visible reason to be there. He was just watching, moving slowly through the street like he was committing it to memory. When investigators asked how many people she thought were involved in the night of the disappearance, she didn't hesitate. She said 2 or 3. Not one person acting alone, a coordinated team. Multiple people who planned this together, who showed up together, who carried it out together. That same night, a doorbell camera captured a figure approaching the property, masked, dark clothing, moving with purpose, and carrying a full backpack. Was that backpack full on the way in, packed with tools, equipment, restraints? Or was it full on the way out, carrying something taken from inside that house? We don't know yet, but here is what we do know with certainty. The FBI is following a digital trail that cannot be destroyed. They watched someone move money from that wallet on February 11th. They have technology that can connect an anonymous address to a real human identity. They are building something. They are moving toward something. The question that won't let me go. If the FBI can see every transaction in that wallet, if they watched someone make a move 10 days after Nancy was taken, if they have tools that can trace cryptocurrency back to a person's real name, real bank account, real identity, why hasn't anyone been arrested? What are they assembling behind closed doors? What are they waiting for the right moment to reveal? Or, and this is the thought that keeps me awake at 2 in the morning, what do they already know that they aren't telling us yet? Nancy Guthrie is still missing. She is 84 years old. She is someone's mother, someone's grandmother, someone who deserves to come home. Tell me in the comments, do you believe the Bitcoin trail is what breaks this case open? Or is there something else, something deeper that the FBI is quietly building toward? And if you haven't watched the video about the night Nancy disappeared, it's linked right here. There are details in that video that will change the way you see everything.